Okay, good afternoon, class. So we already started the second unit. In that, we have already seen what are isoquants and isocasts and least cost combination of the inputs to produce the best output. And also, we have seen the production function, and we have different types of production functions. Also, in that, one among them is Cobb-Douglas production function. Okay, Cobb-Douglas production function. This These, this is the name of two American economists, C.W. Cobb and P.H. Douglas. So that's the name why we have given it as Cobb Douglas. Okay. So they have given some production function where there is a vigorous improvement in the America from 1899 to 1922. Okay, where it is to give the relationship between the physical input and the physical output. Okay, in those time there is a huge amount of revolution to increase the production. So at the time they have given this Cobb-Douglas production function, which helped them a lot in the manufacturing industry to know the input and output relationships. Okay, physical inputs and physical output relationships in the production. Okay, so you just listen this carefully. Okay, or else you may not understand this. Okay, first we see the relationship, what it is. If P is equal to B into L to the power of A, C to the power of 1 minus A. What is this P? P is the total output. P is the total output. And B is the positive constant. B is the positive constant. L is the quantity of labor and C is the quantity of capital. You can see the exponents as A and 1 minus A. These are the elasticity of production. Okay, elasticity of production. So when can we say perfectly elastic? Okay, for every increase in the input, there is perfectly same amount of output increase. Then we used to call it as perfectly elastic. For perfectly elastic case, the elasticity will be 1. Do you understand? When there is a perfectly elastic case, the elasticity will be equal to 1. So here, so what we want to know here is, if there is, that means L is the labor and C is the capital, right? So to get the perfect output, to get the perfect output, one fourth proportion of the capital and three-fourth proportion of the labor will be contributed towards the improvement of the productivity. Okay. So what does it mean is, if you are producing something already, if you want to improve your productivity, what you have to do is, you have to improve, you have to increase your capital one fourth of the existing. That means if you are producing 100 number of for producing 100 number of units, you require 100 rupees. Do you get now? For producing 100 number of units, if you require 100 rupees, to improve your productivity, what you have to do, you have to improve your capital. That means instead of 100 rupees, now you have to use 125 rupees, right? Okay, and you have to improve your labor also by 3/4. That means previously if you have used around 4 persons to produce the products, now you have to use 3. So 4 plus 3, 7 persons you have to use. Do you get now what I'm saying? Okay, if you want to improve the productivity in correct manner to get the best outputs, if you improve your capital by 1/4, say some 25%, we can say the capital has to be if the capital has to be increased by 25%, and for there should be improvement in the labor by 75%. Do you get now clearly? So everyone will be confusing here. You have to be careful regarding this Cobb-Douglas production function. Just as an example, I have taken just with respect to the labor and the capital, right? With the minimum number of values. Okay, what I have said now. So we can say that production function, Cobb-Douglas production function is equal to P is equal to B into L to the power of A into C to the power of 1 minus A, where P is the total product and B is the positive constant and L is the quantity of the labor and Q is the quantity of the capital, and whereas the exponents A and 1 minus A are the elasticity of production, right? So now what we are doing is we are to improve our productivity. What we have to do? We have to improve it in a proper way. Okay, if you don't improve in a proper way, you may also have losses also. That things you'll see in the next discussions also. So see what I have mentioned here. P is equal to B to the power of, this is L to the power of 3 by 4. This is C to the power of 1 by 4. Okay. So they are the powers actually. Okay. So that's for a given change in the labor and capital factor, the productivity will be changing, right? For 0.75 labor factor together with 0.25 capital factor results in the productivity by 1. Do you get now? To improve the productivity by one factor, say for example to improve the productivity by 100%, so we have to improve the capital by 25% and also the labor by 75%. So for example, I have given you that for producing 100 number of units, we require 100 rupees and 4 number of labor is required. So now what I have to do? I want to improve my productivity. So to improve my productivity, what I have to do? I have to improve my capital by 25% and the labor by 75% to get the 100% improvement in the product. That means I for with 125 rupees of capital and a labor of 3% increase with the 7 number of labor, I may be improving my productivity. Okay. So that is Cobb-Douglas production function. Then what about this Lintif production function? So one more economist from Russia, okay, a well-known economist from Russia called as Lintif, who also got the Nobel Prize in economic science in the year of 1973. He had given some input-output relationship, input-output relationship regarding the production, okay, and he is also a professor from University of Cal and Harvard University and New York University consequently. So had so we have one more type of production function called as Lintif production function, which was proposed by the economist, Russian economist Lintif. Okay, this is to give the relationship between the inputs and the outputs. So what this Lintif production function is saying? So generally, this Lintif production function is the case where we can't substitute with one another. Previously, when we have discussed regarding the isoquants, so for one input we can substitute with the other input. Okay, instead of one input, we can substitute with the other input, whether increasing or decreasing. So here, there are some cases where we can't change one input with the another input. Okay, for those cases, this Lintif production function is very much useful. Okay, if you see, generally you can see this Lintif function in the production functions where we will be having a graph of L-shaped ones. Just to see the function here, Q is equal to minimum of A1 by A, comma, sorry, I1 by A, comma, I2 by B. So what is the quantity of the output? Quantity of output is Q. Okay. That means we are finding with the given number of input combinations how many number of outputs can be produced. We get now. So what I want to know here is this Lintif production function is helping us. This Lintif production function is helping us to identify with the different number of inputs how many number of output products can be produced. Say for example, okay, let me tell me you an example that so if you have a car manufacturing factory, if you have a car manufacturing factory, so if you have to give 1000 number of cars by the end of month of the September, what you will be doing? You will be identifying the amount of input what you have. Okay, you will be identifying the maximum. Sorry, what is the amount of input available? Okay, that may be your iron or so you don't have your own production of tires, car tires, on the production of steering wheel. Okay, you don't have your own production. You have to get from some others. So first and foremost, what you have to see how many number of tires are there and how many number of steering wheels are there, you have to identify. So first, when you go with the verification of your stock, what you will be doing is with the existing stock, how many number of units you can produce, you have to identify first. Okay, for example, when you manufacture a car and give to the customer, how many number of tires you have to be, how many number of tires has to be there for a car? How many? Anyone you can answer? Anyone you can answer? You can answer directly by unmuting yourself. So five number of tires are required to give the new car to the customer. Why? Yeah, four of the tires are fixed and one is the Stephanie. Right? You have to give Stephanie also. When you want to sell your car, you have to provide the Stephanie also to the customer. So for one car, we require five number of tires and one steering wheel. Okay, do you get now? So if if my in my godown, if I have 5,000 number of tires and 500 number of steering wheels. Do you get now? 500 number of steering wheels and 5,000 number of tires I am having. So with the existing stock, how many cars I can make? Can anyone give me the answer? Anyone? That is what limited production function is saying. Okay. What we will be doing is, so we will take the minimum value. We will take the minimum value of the both. So first one is number of tires. How many number of tires we have? We have 5,000 number of tires. So for each car we require how many? 5. So that means its value is around 1,000. Okay, well and good. Keep it aside. For each car we require one steering wheel. Okay, for each car we require one steering wheel. So this how many steering wheels we have in our godown? We have 500 steering wheels. So for each car we require one. So this 500 divided by 1 is nothing but 500. Keep that one aside. What's the previous value what we got? That is 5,000 divided by 5. That is 1,000. Now this is 500 divided by 1. That is 500. We have to get the minimum value for the both. Right? So that is the quantity we can produce. That is the quantity we can produce with the existing stock. So that is the limited production function. So you should be very much careful to know different textbooks give different types of definitions, and if you study that, you'll be getting very much confused. So just you follow this. Okay, Q is the quantity of output. This is the quantity of output. Okay, produced, and I1 and I2 are the quantities of inputs employed. What I want to say is quantities of inputs employed here means the total amount of total number of total total quantities. That means I1 is 1, indicating that the number of quantity of type P1 is present. That means input 1. That means the number of tires. Say I have 5000 number of tires there. And I2 is the steering wheels. Okay, that's well and good. So what does this A and B indicate? These are the A and B are the requirements to produce one particular output. For production of one car, I require 5 number of tires there. For production of one car, sorry, in my for one car, I require one steering wheel. That is my B. B is 1 and A is 5. So what is my input? 5000 tires, that is I1, and 500 steering wheels, that is my I2. Okay, the same thing they have given. Don't get confused by seeing too much there. Okay, so what you are saying is the lintif production function is just like this. It is having L-shaped curves. Okay, if you want to increase, you have to increase the quantity in a correct fashion, right? So this is the Cobb-Douglas production function and the lintif production function. Okay, well and good. Do you get the concept properly? Cobb-Douglas production function is to improve the number of units. So that means if I want to improve my one unit, if I want to produce my production, that means to improve my productivity by 100%, what I have to do? I have to improve the labor in 75% and capital in 25%. What if you exchange both? That means if you increase the capital, that sometimes it may cause loss for you. So we may improve the labor, right? Okay, we are improving the labor by 75%. Okay, and the capital by 25% to improve our productivity by 100%. Okay, so after learning these production functions, we also have to know returns to scales and returns to factors. We should know returns to scales and returns to factors. Law of returns to scale. So we have law of returns to scale. Okay, law of increasing returns to scale, constant returns to scale, and decreasing returns to scale. What does it mean? Law of returns to scale. Increasing returns to scale, decreasing returns to scale, constant returns to scale. So for example, if you see, I have a land and I am willing to do farming. I have an agriculture land. I want to do farming in it. Okay. So for 1 unit of capital, I require 3 units of labor. Okay. I'm having a capital of 1 unit and I have a labor of 3 units. Say for example, we can think as like this. So 1 unit of capital here means say some 10,000 rupees for example. I'm having 10,000 rupees of capital and 3 labor working for me. I'm able to produce 50 number of 50 bags of paddy. Okay, I'm doubling my labor now. That means instead of 1, I'm making it 2. Okay, I am doubling my input labor, and I am doubling my I am doubling my capital. Instead of 10,000, I am giving input as 20,000. Okay, now the labor is also doubled. Instead of 3, previously when I kept 10,000 rupees as my capital, I kept my labor as 3. Now at that time I have produced a 50 units or 50 bags of paddy there. Now I have doubled my capital, so that means instead of for 10,000 rupees I am using now 20,000 rupees, and I increased my labor also. I once again doubled, that is now 6 units. Okay, so what is the percentage increase in both the inputs? 100%, right? When we double a particular quantity, it is nothing but 100% improvement, right? So now I am able to get 120 bags of paddy. Do you get now? I have just doubled. So, but the production has not only doubled, it is more than the double, right? Do you get now? I have doubled my input labor and capital. Actually, the output also has to be doubled. That means previously it is 50 bags of paddy. Now it has to be 100, but it is unfortunately 120. That is called as law of increasing returns to scale. Right now. Now what I do is I again double my labor and capital. So previously my capital is 20,000. Now my capital is 40,000 rupees, and my labor previously is 6. Now I double it to 12. So I increased the both by 100%. Land and labor and the capital by 100%. Now what happened is previously I got 120 bags of paddy. Now I am getting 240 bags of paddy. Do you get now? So I have increased the input by 100%, and the output is also increased by 100%. So that is called as constant returns to scale. Okay, that is called constant returns to scale. Okay, I further doubled my capital. Now I am using 80,000 rupees as capital, and I am once again doubling my labor. Previously it is 12. My labor is 12. Now I am making it 24. That means I am once again increasing by 100%. Okay, I am increasing the inputs by 100%, but now my production of paddy is only 360. Okay, only 360. So how much is the improvement? Since it is 240, again it has to be doubled at least. If it is of constant returns to scale, it has to be 480. If it is 500, it is increasing returns. If it is previously it is 240, now if it is 480 means it is constant returns to scale. But unfortunately it is less than the 480. Now it is only 360 it is. That means there is no 100% improvement in the output. That is called as decreasing returns. You have improved your inputs, both the inputs, but the output has decreased. It is not improved in such a fashion. That is called as decreasing returns to scale. Okay. So we also have the concept of returns to the factors. Okay. See you in the next class regarding that.